Recording in progress.
Yeah. So we're not going to finish Proverbs, but we're going to finish up the segment of Proverbs that this whole process was mainly for, and that was about Solomon, his writings, or those that are attributed to him. So we're going to go through chapters 21 through 24 today. But there's a little video. I realized that I didn't pop that video on when we started the Proverbs, but this will provide a little bit more background, maybe help you understand why Proverbs is in there and why it's located where it is and that kind of thing. But it is part of the wisdom literature, which includes things like Ecclesiastes and stuff like that. So just giving you a heads up there. Job, by the way, is also considered wisdom literature. So anyway, so let me go ahead and start recording. Let's start our share screen here. Hopefully everybody at home can see it. We can do this. There we go. And then share, and then presentation mode. Okay. And then there we go. So we wait for the little red. There we go. And see if I can figure out how to start it.
The book of Proverbs. The word proverb typically refers to a short, clever saying that offers some kind of wisdom, and this book has a lot of those. But they're almost all in the center section of the book, chapters 10 to 29. But there is way more going on in the book of Proverbs, especially at the beginning, chapters 1 through 9, and the conclusion, chapters 30 and 31. The book's been designed with an introduction, chapter 1, verses 1 through 9, and it first of all links this book to King Solomon. Now remember the story in 1 Kings chapter 3. Solomon had asked God for wisdom to lead Israel well. And so Solomon became known as the wisest man in the ancient world. And we're told in 1 Kings chapter 4 that he wrote thousands of proverbs and poems and collected knowledge about plants and animals. So Solomon was like the fountainhead of Israel's wisdom literature. So while not all the material in this book is written by him personally, he is where Israel's wisdom tradition began. The introduction says that by reading this book, you too can gain wisdom. Now, wisdom for most of us means knowledge, but the Hebrew word chokhmah means much more than just mental activity. It refers to action also. So think skill or applied knowledge. This is why back in the book of Exodus, chapter 31, it was artists and craftsmen in Israel who were said to have chokhmah. So the purpose of this book is to help you develop a set of practical skills for living well in God's world. And this gets linked with another key idea in the introduction, the fear of the Lord. Now, fear here is not about terror. It's about a healthy sense of reverence and awe for God and about my place in the universe. It's a moral mindset that recognizes I am not God and that I don't get to make up my own definitions of good and evil and right and wrong. Rather, I need to humble myself before God and embrace God's definition of right and wrong, even when that's inconvenient for me. Now, this introduction leads us into the first main section of the book, chapters 1 through 9, which also doesn't contain short one-liner proverbs. Rather, what we find here are 10 speeches from a father to a son about how the son should listen to wisdom and cultivate the fear of the Lord and live accordingly, which means a life of virtue and integrity and generosity, all of which lead to success and peace. The father warns his son also about folly and evil and stupid decisions that will breed selfishness and pride, all leading to ruin and shame. And so the son should make the pursuit of wisdom and the fear of the Lord his highest goal in life. And this way of thinking, it forms the moral logic of this entire book. Now, these speeches from the father also clue us into what biblical wisdom literature is and how it's different from other parts of the Bible. These books explore how to live well in God's world, but wisdom is not the same as law, like what Moses gave Israel at Mount Sinai. And it's not the same as prophecy, divine speech to God's people. Rather, wisdom literature has the accumulated insight of God's people through the generations about how to live in a way that honors God and others. And so, through the book of Proverbs, now, These human words about wisdom have been put together as God's word and wisdom to his people, which connects to the other thing you find in chapters 1 through 9. There are 4 poems from Lady Wisdom. Here, wisdom has been poetically personified as a woman who calls out to humanity to pay attention and to seek her. Wisdom says that she is woven into the fabric of the universe, and so wherever you see people making wise decisions, they are relying on her. So you see someone being generous or having sexual integrity or upholding justice, they are drawing on wisdom. These Lady Wisdom poems, they're a creative, poetic way of exploring this idea that we live in God's moral universe, and that goodness and justice are objective realities that we ignore to our own peril. And so fearing the Lord, living wisely, it's living along the grain of the universe. Now together, these 2 sets of speeches from the Father and Lady Wisdom, they make a powerful claim about this book, that you're not simply reading good advice, you're reading God's own invitation to learn wisdom from previous generations. And so in the next section of the book, chapters 10 through 29, we find hundreds of ancient proverbs, and they apply wisdom and the fear of the Lord to every life topic you could imagine: family, work, neighborhood, friendship, sex, marriage, money, anger, forgiveness, alcohol, debt,
Notice how
everything.
we
And these
said
are all
sex,
filtered
but
through
it
the
didn't get
value
listed on
system
there.
of Proverbs 1 through 9. Now, these
Um,
Proverbs, they're all pretty
yes,
short, they're
that
easy
because
to
they know when
memorize, and
they
actually,
want
this section of the book is
to
meant to
you
become
do
a
that
reference
filters and
work
when they
that
have
you
things like
return
that,
to time and time again throughout the
mark up.
years, which raises some important
Right.
issues in learning how to read these Proverbs. First of all, Proverbs are by nature about probabilities. So you fear the Lord and you make wise, good choices, things will likely go well for you. And if you don't fear the Lord, you're foolish, your life will likely not go so well. Now, that is all often true, but not always. Which leads to the next point, that Proverbs are not promises. They're not formulas for success. So, some Proverbs, for example. The fear of the Lord prolongs your life, but the years of the wicked are cut short. Or, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't turn from it. So yes, fearing God, being a moral person, will most likely lead to a better, longer life, and raising your kids in a stable, loving home does set them up well, but there are no guarantees. Lots of things can and often do go wrong in our world. And so lastly, Proverbs by nature focus on the general rule, but not the exceptions, which are many. And the wisdom books actually aren't ignorant of that. The exceptions are what the other wisdom books, Job and Ecclesiastes, are all about. And together, these acknowledge that life is too complex for simple formulas, which is why we need all of the wisdom books together to get the bigger picture. This all leads to the final section of the book, 2 large collections of poems. First, poems from a man named Agur, who begins by acknowledging his own ignorance and folly and his great need for God's wisdom. And then Agur discovers that divine wisdom has been given to him in the scriptures, which teach him how to live well. And so Agur is put before us as like a model reader of the book of Proverbs, somebody who's always open to hearing God's wisdom through the scriptures. The final poems are connected to a man named Lemuel. He's a non-Israelite king, and he passes on the wisdom that was given to him by his mom. It's guidance for being a wise and just leader. And then the final poem is an acrostic or an alphabet poem where each line begins with a new letter of the Hebrew alphabet. And the entire poem's about the woman of noble character. It depicts a woman who lives according to the wisdom of Proverbs and stands like a model of someone who takes God's wisdom and then translates it into practical decisions in everyday life, at work or at home, in her family and in her community. So the book opened with words from a father to a son about listening to Lady Wisdom, and so now the book closes by offering the words of a mother to her son about a woman who lives wisely. The book of Proverbs is for every person in every season of life. It's a guide for living wisely and well in God's good world. And that's what the book of Proverbs is all about.
Okay, somebody find my mouse here. Okay, so we'll go on with you can put that light on. Thank you, Ron. Yeah. You just couldn't see the TV, or is that? Glare.
It was.
I see. Okay. So we're in Proverbs 21. We're going to go through 24. Start with verse 1 here. If we get to one that you want to comment on or more any last questions about, I will not have any answers for you, but we can certainly discuss it. Verse 1: the king's heart is a stream of water in the hand of the Lord. He turns it wherever he will. All deeds are right in the sight of the doer, but the Lord weighs the heart. To do righteousness and justice is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Where have we heard that before?
Obedience is best.
We hear about it in the prophets, specifically Micah and Haggai and Amos. We hear these things that
Do justice and love kindness.
right, that with Micah specifically there, but where we hear, God telling, I think it's Ezekiel telling him, your sacrifices and your rituals don't please me anymore. It's your heart that, so anyway. Haughty eyes and a proud heart. We've heard that phrase before. Haughty eyes and a proud heart, the lamp of the wicked, are sin. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to want. The getting of treasures by a lying tongue is a fleeting vapor and a snare of death. The violence of the wicked will sweep them away because they refuse to do what is just. The way
It just takes a long time for that to happen.
Sometimes it never happens. Yeah. Correct. You got Proverbs. Proverbs are based on probabilities. You're right. They're not promises. The way of the guilty is crooked, but the conduct of the pure. Did I skip one? No. The way of the guilty is crooked. Conduct of the pure is.
What I used to do is I used to take all the good ones, like that part. I just outlined it.
Somebody else did that too. His name was Marcion, and we ended up with a horrible, evil Bible. Yeah,
I know my best.
when all this is over with, we may go through the history of how the Bible came to be, and we'll hear all about Marcion. That was a bad time in Christianity. So, verse 9. I'm not saying you do what you do. It is better to live in a corner of the housetop than in a house shared with a contentious wife. Your Honor, I'd like to exercise rights on the basis that anything I say should be used against you. The souls of the wicked desire evil. Their neighbors find no mercy in their eyes. When a scoffer is punished, the simple become wiser. When the wise are instructed, they increase in knowledge. The righteous one, notice that's capitalized there, that's a title. The righteous one observes the house of the wicked. He casts the wicked down to ruin. I agree with that, but for some reason that makes it sound like Santa Claus, checking that list. Yeah. If you close your ear to the cry of the poor, you will cry out and not be heard.
Yeah.
That is certainly a justice thing that all the prophets. A gift in secret averts anger, and a concealed bribe, strong wrath. When justice is done, it is a joy to the righteous, but dismay to evil. Whoever wanders from the way of understanding will rest in the assembly of the dead. Whoever loves pleasure will suffer want. Whoever loves wine and oil will not be rich. Really? I seem to recall a report out on Exxon or Sweden.
They were very rich.
They're rich. The wicked is a ransom for the righteous, and the faithless for the other. So, I'm sorry. The wicked is a ransom for the righteous, and the wicked is a ransom for the righteous, and the faithless are a ransom for the upright.
Okay.
Okay.
Where's that? I don't understand how they're a ransom.
Well, let's go through this exactly how to walk through, but to get something back that you use.
It's like going and get it back.
So, if wickedness is a ransom for the righteous, we pay wickedness in order to get our righteousness back. That don't really sound right. Yeah, I may have to, I say these often and I never get back to y'all, but I'll have to look some of these up. So, but that'll be one of them. I'm marking it on the video right now. Chapter 21, verse 18. 19. It is better to live in a desert land than with a contentious and fretful life.
Down on the nagging one.
He's got enough of them.
Yeah. I don't necessarily disagree with it, but neither will I say that my life is contentious and fretful. Precious treasure remains in the house of the wise, but the fool devours it. Whoever pursues righteousness and kindness will find life and honor. One wise person went up against a city of warriors and brought down the stronghold in which they trusted. Means it only takes one person to make a difference. To watch over mouth and tongue is to keep out of trouble. Yeah, there's that phrase again. Better to be thought of a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. To watch over mouth and tongue. Oh, I already said that. Yeah. Speaking of foolish. 24. The proud, haughty person named Scoffer, there's another title, acts with arrogant pride. Arrogance and confidence are two different things. The craving of the lazy person is fatal, for lazy hands refuse to labor. All day long the wicked covet, but the righteous give and do not hold back.
You're so genius.
I think all of us fit into that covetousness and don't always want to hold. Often we do hold back a little bit. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination. How much more when brought with an evil intent? A false witness will perish, but a good listener will testify successfully. Now, this one is interesting because if you go into Acts, the Acts of the Apostles, the 5th book of the the New Testament, you'll find where Peter and John are put in prison, and for a second time after they were put in prison one time, told, "Don't go out there and preach the name of Jesus. Don't do that." And so they let them out, and they immediately go back and start doing it again. So a few days later, they get arrested. Well, they're trying to figure out, well, how do we stop these guys from doing this? And this wise man named Gamaliel. Now, Gamaliel plays an important role because he is mentioned as being one of the teachers of the Apostle Paul when he was a Pharisee. So, but Gamaliel stands up in front of the Pharisees there, and the people that have arrested him, and he says, "Look, if these guys are truly from God, there is absolutely nothing that we're going to be able to do to stop what they're preaching. But if they're not from God, this is eventually just going to die out. So we just let them go." And so, yeah, that kind of speaks to that. Anyway. The wicked put on a bold face, but the upright give thought to their ways. No, that's being the bigger person, I think, is what it talks about. No wisdom, no understanding, no counsel can avail against the Lord. It's kind of a weird one because it seems to indicate that wisdom and understanding and counsel, whether it be wise or not, can't go against the Lord at all. But I would say that the Lord holds ultimate wisdom and ultimate understanding and ultimate counsel. And so there's nothing humanly we can do to argue against God. The horse is made ready for the day of battle, but the victory belongs to the Lord. Yeah, it's a good one. Proverbs 22, verse 1. A good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Favor is better than silver or gold.
Hmm.
And following that, the rich and the poor have this in common. The Lord is the maker of them all. We're all beloved children. The clever see danger and hide, but the simple go on and suffer. Okay. The reward for humility and fear of the Lord is riches and honor and wealth. Thorns and snares are in the way of the perverse. The cautious will keep far from them. Here's that one that we heard about in the video. Train children in the right way, and when old, they will not stray.
That's a good.
If only.
I mean,
Right.
these kids are not
Right.
you know, feel the hype of teacher.
It's probable that if they're trained the right way, they won't. Not guaranteed. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is the slave of the lender.
Mm.
Whoever sows injustice will reap calamity. A lot of anger will. Those who are generous are blessed, for they share their bread with the poor. Blessed are takers. Drive out a scoffer, and strife goes out. Quarreling and abuse will cease.
Wow.
I think that's what we look forward to in eternity. You know, it's something to be gained, but that doesn't often work. You drive out one scoffer nowadays, and three more take place, like the head of Hydra. And those who love a pure heart and are gracious in speech will have the king as a friend.
That's good.
Interesting that king is not capitalized, so it's not a title. But it does indicate probably he's talking about himself. That if you have a pure heart and you're gracious, that you and I can hang out. The eyes of the Lord keep watch over knowledge, but he overthrows the words of the famous. The lazy person says, there is a lion outside. I shall be killed in the streets. They look for reasons not to do. The mouth of a loose woman is a deep pit. I should have read that before, read it silently before I read it out loud. The mouth of a loose woman is a deep pit. He with whom the Lord is angry falls into it.
Oh, man.
Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline drives them far away.
So this spoil the rod.
Spare the rod and spoil the child. Oppressing the poor in order to enrich oneself and giving to the rich will lead only to loss.
Yeah, that's true.
And then we get to this section where it says the words of the wise. It's it starts a new verse there, but it's really a chapter heading for the sentence. The words of the wise. Incline your ear and hear my words, and apply your mind to my teaching, for it will be pleasant if you keep them within you, if all of them are ready on your lips. So we get into longer proverbs. So that we continue, sorry.
Well, this is more traditional wisdom literature.
Correct, yeah. So that your trust may be in the Lord. I have made them known to you. Today, yes, to you. Just in case you wondered who he was talking to. Have I not written for you 30 sayings of admonition and knowledge to show you what is right and true, so that you may give a true answer to those who sent you? Do not rob the poor because they are poor. By the way, I didn't go back and read, whether there were 30 of them or not. So, I didn't break that. Do not rob the poor because they are poor, or crush the afflicted at the gate. For the Lord pleads their cause and despoils of life those who despoil them. Now that kind of goes back to that no wisdom, no understanding, no counsel can avail, Lord. Anyway. Make no friends with those given to anger, and do not associate with hotheads, lest you learn their ways and entangle yourself in a snare. Do not be one of those who give pledges, who become surety for debts.
Oh, my God.
Means don't enable.
Well, I'm sorry, my mother was the biggest enabler. I'm so
They exist. I mean,
My mom was this. But I love her so much, she never said no, I'm just like her, I won't say no, I'm sorry about it. So,
If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed, this follows the other one. If you have nothing with which to pay, why should your bed be taken from under you?
that means you're gonna pay your bills, you're gonna put out.
Well, it's, don't take a loan if you can't, if there's no possible way that you can never pay it back. Do not remove the ancient landmark that your ancestors set up. Do not see those who are skillful in their work. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you see those who are skillful in their work? They will serve kings. They will not serve common people.
That's for people that's got money, rich, right?
Well, again, this is a whole section that kind of fit, that everything from that verse 25 or whatever onto here kind of all fits together. It's all one reading. So, right, those people who do take surety, they do take pledges. Well, kings will have the power to pay that somehow. So, anyway. Okay, on to chapter 23. When you sit down to eat with an official, observe carefully what is before you, and put a knife to your throat if you have a big appetite.
Don't be gluttonous.
Do not desire an official's delicacies, for they are deceptive food. Basically, that's saying that, if you're dining at an official, there is more to the dinner than just dinner.
Yeah, it's tall.
And then continuing on with the thought here, do not wear yourself out to get rich. Be wise enough to desist. When your eyes light upon it, it is gone, for suddenly it takes wings to itself, flying like an eagle toward heaven. Riches are fleeting, Do not eat the bread of the stingy.
Oh.
Do not desire their delicacies, for like a hair in the throat, so are they. Eat and drink, they say to you, but they do not mean it. Ooh. You will vomit up the little you have eaten, and you will waste your present words. Do not speak in the hearing of a fool, who will only despise the wisdom of your words. I'm going to stop there for just a moment. So we get this comparison contrast with official versus stingy. An official in this understanding here is one that is out to be beneficial for both. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours, that kind of thing. Stingy, on the other hand, is you scratch my back and get out of here. That's the contrast he's making. And then continuing on with the thought of eating with the stingy, in verse 10, do not remove an ancient landmark or encroach on the fields of orphans, for their vindicator is strong, he will plead their cause against you. Apply your mind to instruction and your ear to the words of knowledge. Do not withhold discipline from your children. Verse 12 starting out. Do not withhold discipline from your children. If you beat them with a rod, they will not die. You see how that could be taken wrong.
Yeah.
I got beat
I got.
with a rod.
My
parents were
fishing cords,
Literalists.
My parents were biblical literalists. Got whipped with a dowel knife.
Oh my goodness. I got.
Now, I'm not saying I didn't deserve discipline, but anyway.
You're gonna do that. You're gonna do right by me. Jay, you up and just switch.
Continuing the thought here, if you beat them with the rod, you will save their lives from Sheol. That's a pit. That means the pit. Hebrews, the ancient Jews didn't really have an understanding of it happened. That when your body goes in the ground, that's you're in the pit. So, my child, if your heart is wise, my heart also will be glad. My soul will rejoice when your lips speak what is right. Do not let your heart envy sinners, but always continue in the fear of the Lord. There's that word. Great. Surely there is a future, and your hope will not be cut off.
That's the future of hope. Lord.
Hear, my child, and be wise, and direct your mind in the way. Do not be among wine bibbers or among gluttonous eaters of meat, for the drunkard and the glutton will come to poverty, and drowsiness will clothe them with rags. Listen to your father who begot you, and do not despise your mother when she is old. Buy truth and do not sell it. Buy wisdom, instruction, and understanding. I would just say that, to buy something is to give something of yourself in return for something greater. The father of the righteous will greatly rejoice. He who fathers a wise son will be glad in him. Let your father and mother be glad. Let her who bore you rejoice. My child, give me your heart and let your eyes observe my ways. These thoughts, I don't know what he's thinking here. For a prostitute is a deep pit, and adulteress is a narrow well. She lies in wait like a robber and increases the number of the fakes.
Everybody calls it some strange beat, and they just all that bad one thing out of us. I'm saying, man, I just don't, I'm serious.
Well, it's
Not
enticing.
today, even in the daytime, they just. To her.
Who has woe? Who has sorrow? Who has strife? Who has complaining? Who has wounds without cause? Who has redness of eyes? Those who linger late over wine, those who keep trying mixed wines. Do not look at wine when it is red. It sparkles in the cup and goes down smoothly.
Oh, I wish my mother did drink so.
All right. We'll continue this thought in a minute, but I want, if you look at verse 29, almost all of those, Jesus reframes this in the Sermon on the Mount with the Beatitudes. I think he reframes these things because blessed are those who mourn, blessed are those who suffer for my sake, blessed are those who are treated wrong, just like the prophets were before. I see some Jesus reframing what these are in a more righteous tone as opposed to anyway. Okay, and then continue to go. At the last, it bites like a serpent. This is talking about that wine. At the last, it bites like a serpent and stings like an adder.
Yeah.
Your eyes will see strange things, and your mind utter perverse things.
Now, did they drink water? Was water safe to drink?
No, that's why they made wine.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, the fermented grapes more or less purified the wine, made it potable. Yeah.
So
A drunk would tell the truth.
Well,
what was their choice? If they didn't drink wine, what did they drink?
well, I think most of it has to do with drinking too much. It's one thing to drink.
So
to have to drink
supposed to
wine.
drink 8 glasses of wine a day?
Maybe, but it wasn't quite the
Sounds like
same.
too much.
It wasn't quite the same as what we had. It was.
Not as high percentage alcohol.
Well, I won't necessarily say that either. It may have been, but it was. It was drunk new.
Well, I will compare it
Didn't
to
have time to ferment like some of the
when
others.
we were in Italy. There's a lot of people who make their own wine still, and it's legal. I mean, they do it, but it doesn't give you a headache.
Mhm.
It's not as, it doesn't have, it can't be exported because it doesn't contain sulfites.
Right.
It's just it's sort of a healthier wine.
my father made wine. My was wine, and my father made his own wine, and it didn't get you drunk. My
Well,
father
if you
made-
drink enough of anything, you will.
I
But
mean, it's just gave you a taste.
I think this is having to do with letting something control you that you should have control over. Yeah, your mind utter perverse things. You'll be like one who lies down in the midst of the sea, like one who lies on the top of a mast. They struck. We kind of, I don't know if you've ever been on a cruise, but you get off and for days you're like, the ground is moving. They struck me, you will say, but I was not hurt. They beat me, but I did not feel it. when shall I awake? I will seek another drink. I will say that this is both a curse but a blessing too, because alcohol used in the right method, used to make somebody drunk, like in say in a battlefield medical tent or something, it took the pain
Yes.
for what they were about to do. But again, the doctors are in control of it at that point, not the person who's getting it. So anyway. Okay, on to the last chapter we're going to read. Do not envy the wicked, nor desire to be with them, for their minds devise violence and their lips talk of mischief. By wisdom, by wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding it is established. By knowledge, the rooms are filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Why? And then again, this goes with that same thought, but I don't know. Wise warriors are mightier than strong.
Wisdom house.
Mhm.
So are you saying that there's a specific way you can build your house with God in it? Or
Well,
the way that God will be,
certainly, it's definitely an analogy.
instead of just putting stuff in it?
Correct. Well, when we go to build our own homes, we don't design it necessarily ourselves. But even if we do, we still take it to an architect to figure out, okay, how does this, we put the planning in place, we do the research, we take care of all those little nuances. And by understanding all that kind of stuff, then we're able to go on and have the house built. So wise warriors are mightier than strong ones, and those who have knowledge than those who have strength. Oh, there's a thought that continues there. For by wise guidance you can wage your war, and in abundance of counselors there is victory. I disagree a little bit with the end of verse 6. In abundance of counselors, having more counselors ain't necessarily having more wise counselors, certainly. But I think it's just I say a mistake on the writer. I think the thought is there, just didn't literally say that. Wisdom is too high for fools. In the gate, they do not open their mouths. Whoever plans to do evil will be called a mischief maker. The devising of folly is sin, and the scoffer is an abomination to all. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength being small, if you hold back from rescuing those taken away to death, those who go staggering to the slaughter, if you say, look, we did not know this, does not he who weighs the heart perceive it? Does not he who keeps watch over your soul know it? And will he not repay all according to their deeds? Well, it's for somebody to when it comes to social justice, being silent, not doing anything, makes you just as guilty as those who are doing the wrong in itself.
I mean, he said, I always felt guilty. People make me feel guilty for saying something. Instead of me being quiet, I say something, they make me feel guilty for saying it.
Why'd you say that?
No,
No.
I'm just saying,
No.
but I'm just saying, like, okay, Tyler went to the store, she put a dress on the thing, she walked out the store with it. And I told her, you ain't supposed to pay me. And then you get mad at me for telling you the truth. And then we're not friends anymore. And then they come back and say, oh, I see everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I'm just giving an example because it really happened to me that way.
We often have this mind, well, what I'm doing is not as bad as that. So God won't judge me as harshly as that.
I mean, I don't know if I did the right thing opening my mouth, or did I do the wrong thing by keeping quiet about it? So I'll be like, yeah, because I had a habit of saying something. I got to say something. What you doing? You tell me what to do.
It's well, it's
people don't like to be. Yeah, they don't. I'm gonna do
all that.
They don't. Yeah, they don't like to be called out. And then you get mad at something. Oh yeah, you're not perfect. you. It's crazy. It is crazy. I'm serious. I've been some, I don't know what you call it, precarious. Is that the word I want to say? Precarious for situations? Is that the right word of you? Because the situations, I don't ask for it to come. It's just, it's like I be in the wrong place at the wrong time or something.
Well, you know what the word means?
What?
Life.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, on the verse 13 here, my child, eat honey, for it is good, and the drippings of the honeycomb are sweet to your taste. Know that wisdom is such to your soul. If you find it, you will find a future, and your hope will not be cut off.
A future and hope. Is
Yeah.
that the same? That you just read earlier?
Well, a future is something that is, well, I won't say guaranteed, but it's something in which you can look forward to. But a hope is something that you can look forward to that is good.
Okay.
There's the difference. Do not lie in wait like an outlaw against the home of the righteous. Do no violence to the place where the righteous live. For though they fall 7 times, they will rise again, but the wicked are overthrown by
Let's go ahead.
calamity is bad things. Yeah, I mean that's
Disasters.
it's just bad things. So bad, if you're evil or you're wicked, bad things are going to happen to you. But again, that don't always happen.
You're gonna lose your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Oh, did y'all hear about the
Nope.
called Adonai, it's got a funny name, but anyway, he lost all of his billions and trillions of dollars. His name is Adonai.
In the last few weeks.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
FTX is the
Yes.
name of the company.
He was
It's
defrauding others.
Yes, he was.
And he met a client.
Yes, indeed.
Do not rejoice when your enemies fall, and do not let your heart be glad when they stumble, lest the Lord see it and be displeased and turn away his anger from them. Now, say that's kind of like, hey, don't celebrate when you win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't say that on YouTube. Sorry. When you win the big game.
But we're not supposed to rejoice when Texas loses.
Yeah. Well, does clarify. It's not about necessarily rejoicing. It's in Solomon's eyes here, it is don't rejoice lest God see it and gets upset and doesn't give the evil that was planned for them. Good. Don't rejoice for them because God may see you're rejoicing and decide, you know what, they're not going to be able to get that five-star player such and such. Yeah. So, do not fret because of evildoers. Do not envy the wicked, for the evil have no future. The lamp of the wicked will go out. My child, fear the Lord and the King, and do not disobey either of them, for disaster comes from them suddenly, and who knows the ruin that both can bring. These also are the sayings of the wise. Another title heading here. Partiality in judging is not good. Whoever says to the wicked, you are innocent, will be cursed by peoples, abhorred by nations. But those who rebuke the wicked will have delight, and a good blessing will come upon them. One who gives an honest answer gives a kiss on the lips. Prepare your work outside. Get everything ready for you in the field. And after that, build your house. Do not be a witness against your neighbor without cause, and do not deceive with your lips. Do not say, I will do to others as they have done to me. I will pay them back for what they have done. I passed by the field of one who was lazy, by the vineyard of a stupid person, and see, it was all overgrown with thorns. The ground was covered with nettles, and its stone wall was broken down. Then I saw and considered it. I looked and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want an armed warrior.
I guess that's.
You rest too long, you're. It's not good.
Well, I mean, constant, well, let me just talk about me. I am not lazy. I get a lot of rest. I do. Because I tire out too fast. I do. From doing strenuous work, I tire out like that. It's not like I'm not young anymore. You know, it's not that I don't want to work. My sister asked me if I wanted to work. It's what I mean. I can't say, you know.
We all have moments where we just don't want to do anything. Where just the motivation ain't there, the strength ain't there. There are times. Okay, so we finished chapter 24 of Proverbs, and next week we're going to start into Song of Solomon or Song of Songs. And so, in reference to Song of Songs, which is a title kind of like King of Kings, it's it's a title meaning the best of. So the best of songs. This is the best song I ever kind of made. But in honor of that, I have there's 4 things we're going to talk about next week in there. We're going to, and I named songs that were popular on the radio. Jack and Diane or Solomon and Shulamith. Shulamith, by the way, is you'll find it in some translations, not all. Usually it's the woman of Shunem or whatever. But Shulamith is kind of, if you were to give a person, a woman, a name from that, Shulamith, which means person from Shunem. But interestingly, both Solomon and Shulamith derive from the same root word. So basically, Solomon is the male name and Shulamith is the female name, kind of like Michael and Michelle.
Yeah.
So, okay. And then Rhapsody in Blue. And then Love Walks In. You may not be familiar with that one. That's a hard rock song by a band named Van Halen. And then You Are So Beautiful to Solomon. Okay. So any questions about this week? Okay. Well, I'll see everybody next week. Thank you. Well, thank you.
No video for Song of Songs.